I competed in track and field for Utah State University, where I ran the 400 meters. And I noticed while competing there during my sophomore year, I started to have some pretty good aches and pains in my shins. But that's kind of normal for competing in track. There's usually pain somewhere or another, so I decided to ice pretty good and try to run through it.
The female athlete triad is a condition that's characterized by low energy availability, menstrual irregularity, and impaired bone health. So the female athlete triad can occur when a female athlete isn't consuming enough calories to support her physical activity and her body's regular needs. So this can have negative effects on her sports performance and her lifetime health.
Oftentimes college athletes will look to professional athletes and see how successful they are, and they'll see how fit they are and lean, and look at the different body types that these professional athletes have, and they'll want them right away. And they may not realize that professional athletes have either taken years to get where they're at, or in some cases maybe they're not doing it in healthy ways themselves. And so they'll try to rush the process and unfortunately have practices that are unsustainable themselves, and they might have short-term success, but down the line, unfortunately, they'll encounter a lot of problems.
So a female athlete who isn't consuming enough calories to support both her physical activity and her body's regular needs for growth, maintenance, and reproduction may be in a state of low energy availability. So if we think of a female athlete consuming a certain amount of calories, if most of that is going towards physical activity for her practices, weight training, and competition, then there's not very much left over for everything else. So she has low energy available for the maintenance, the growth, and the reproduction. This can be influenced by disordered eating. Some athletes are consciously trying to restrict their calorie intake, while others may just be busy or just have such high calorie needs that they're not able to meet them with their current diet.
I thought I was eating pretty well. I try to eat as much as I can. But life gets a little crazy. I know in the morning I'd wake up a little late. I'd run out the door and just grab something on my way out. Practice was around lunchtime, so I would eat something light, and then I'd come home and I realized the only real meal, the real substantial meal I was having every day was dinner.
One of the first things we see is changes in menstruation, because the body's going to prioritize survival versus preparing for a potential pregnancy. On average, a menstrual period will occur every 28 days, give or take a week. But if more than 35 days elapses between periods, that's considered irregular. And if it's absent for more than 3 months, it's called amenorrhea. And that is definitely a red flag. Though many factors can affect menstruation, it's one way that our body tries to tell us that it needs more calories. Menstrual irregularity is fairly common among female athletes, especially during times of intense training or competition. Many athletes don't know that it's a problem and might even be excited that they don't have to deal with the inconvenience. However, it's not normal and it's not healthy.
Around the same time, I also realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd had a normal period, which I wasn't too worried about. I wasn't sure if I should talk to somebody about it. A few weeks later, I noticed that my shins were keeping me up at night and the pain was beyond the normal shin splint pain. And I realized that I probably should go talk to the team doctor, which I did. And a bone scan later, I was told that I had stress fractures in both of my legs, in my tibia. So they put me in a boot, and I was on crutches, and I was pretty close to being put in a wheelchair. They were pretty good stress fractures, and I ended up redshirting my sophomore season.
So the reason that we're concerned about changes in menstruation is because menstruation helps to regulate estrogen, and estrogen protects bones. So we see the negative impact that low estrogen can have in older women who have experienced menopause. Because they're no longer menstruating, they have lower levels of estrogen, and we see increased risk of osteoporosis and of bone fractures. But these older women aren't the only ones at risk. young female athletes who have low energy availability and menstrual irregularity are also at risk. Birth control can actually mask the female athlete triad because an athlete may not be consuming enough calories, but birth control can cause menstruation to look normal. But anytime an athlete isn't consuming enough calories, her bones are at risk.
Also sent me to a dietitian right after I was diagnosed with the stress fractures. And while talking with her, she told me that I probably wasn't eating enough to support my activity level while I was competing in track, which kind of surprised me. I wasn't ever, especially hungry. I thought I was eating pretty well. I try to eat as much as I can. So I talked with the dietitian, and together we worked out some things I could do to kind of help with this. We planned some snacks that I could take with me throughout the day, and she really hit home on how important it is to have a good breakfast, both for the average person, but especially for athletes. It's really important to help fuel your day. This new information, I really tried to incorporate it, and a few months later I realized that my period was starting to become more normal and my stress fractures healed, and I was able to compete the next season without any more problems. I hadn't realized that I'd fallen into the female athlete triad. I didn't know what it was. I'd never heard of it. So if you are going longer than 3 months without a period, or feel like you could be getting into some trouble with this, talk to someone about it and see if you can't increase your intake to help combat this and have a healthy career.